Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again, one and all. Today we have got a very special cladding matters. Of course, I'm joined by Hamish McClay, and by audio only because of terrible weather. Storm Hamish, we were joking before. He's Chris Rayton, and today we're talking about whistleblowers. What our esteemed Lord and Master Hamish has called tales of the expected. Who blew that whistle? Before we get into it any further, so as is traditional, Hamish straight under the bus.
Well, I mean, tales of the expected for obvious reasons. We felt we'd know for some weeks now. In fact, some months now, we've been actually trying to create the awareness in the right people's mind that something needs to be seriously done relative to the cladding issues that we have throughout England and Wales, and in actual fact throughout the United Kingdom, in fact throughout the world. We're not on our own in this, but somehow or other we haven't managed to join up the writing even in the United Kingdom, never mind sort of working with people elsewhere. But what we've had a couple of complications today. We were meant to go out at 2:00. That didn't happen because of various issues. The wondrous gale, I think it's Ewan or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's not Gaelic. That much I know, but I think it starts with a U. And somebody did suggest Hamish, but no, it's not a storm in a teacup. It's much bigger than that. This storm that we've got throughout the United Kingdom, but also,
It's Ewan.
How do you pronounce it? I wasn't far out then. So it's expected because we've focused an awful lot now. Chris, we've got Chris today, and he's actually was hoping to join in, but because of interruptions in signals from this wondrous storm, he can't get on view. And Steve has got tied up in an urgent matter in that direction. So Steve's actually down there in London, suffering in his particular way. And Zara, who should have been joining us, giving us some legal expertise about this, is off in another direction. So here we are. It looks like two, but there are definitely three of us here. And it's really, I think, some interesting aspects that come from outside of London, outside of what Zara was speaking about before. So we can actually sort of pass over now. I'm sure.
I'm afraid we're going to have to carry on talking and busking it for a little while I try and get Christopher back on. Sorry about that.
Chris, just a brief bit of background. Chris is construction manager. He's responsible. He's quite a wide experience as a construction manager, working with different people on different sites. He was put in a position several years ago whereby he was a little bit concerned that he understood there were some issues going on with the build process that was then taking place, and he wasn't too sure of what was happening about remediating or improving the situation. So getting in touch with Chris will be able to give you the better picture. Having been sort of asked the question, look, what is happening relative to this? He was told to keep quiet about it. Just ignore it for 6 months, it'll go away, he said. But I can't do that, he said. Now, this is a rarity as we actually sort of see what goes on. Not particularly necessarily with somebody in Chris's position. But what happened as a consequence of that, because he went above, if you like, his line manager to get the matter taken much more seriously, he was suspended. And a number of idiotic conditions were created in order to suspend him, to actually stop him pushing the matter sort of any further. So the situation that was left in then was a very, very difficult one, because he understands that hey, look, there's some serious issues which are being permitted, which shouldn't be permitted. I can't tell anybody about it within our own organization. What do I do? So that is, we know this isn't Royal Artillery Quays. This is a completely different matter. It's a completely different builder, but it's also one that is recognized, and if you like, within the industry, that one would recognize and assume to be very, very efficient in all of this. So this is the background that Chris will actually be bringing to us when he can actually sort of rejoin.
I'm actually going to try and get him on an audio line only and see if we can make that work that way. I'm so sorry about this, guys, but this is the modern data network and live programming. This is what can sometimes happen, but it's still a very valid topic to be talking about, Hamish.
What I'm also, whilst that's going on, I'll just try and pick up one or two of the other reviews outside of what Chris was speaking about, and I'll just read you some parts of the information which is actually sort of coming through. Fortunately, Steve is sat there, as we know, sort of in the midst of the battleground, because he's actually a prisoner within Royal Artillery Quays. It's quite interesting today. We've got all this weather going on around us. We've got all of these wondrous sort of, I say wondrous, these important things that we actually want to sort of speak about. We don't seem to be able to access the information. However, where are we? Well, we've got problems with the Leasehold Reform Act, because that's meant to be looking after, but it doesn't help people in flats actually with who are going through this particular sort of process. And that's hopefully this is Chris coming up now. While we're waiting for things to happen in that direction, let me just read to you an open letter which was sent to a director of a big bag builder whose name begins with P. Anybody know any builders that start with a P who are highly recognised throughout the United Kingdom? They haven't been awarded the recognition as being big bag builders, but this was the letter which was actually written. I've worked on the special projects team for P Homes for 2 months, and to be quite honest, it has shocked me. We are paying a company £6,000 to complete an EWS1 when it only takes the person investigating it one visit. All this money is just being wasted. This company completed the PAS 9980 and EWS1. Don't worry too much about these complications. They are, as we insist, they're important things that do actually sort of matter. But they're just to do with sort of, if you like, certain standards which are meant to be met. Anyway, so the amount's being paid for Avent Court, this is particular. Then the tenders inflated the price to 900,000 to actually complete the internal fire protection. It wasn't checked. It was just signed off as complete. I've since checked the work and it's not completed. Despite the guys in the office telling me not to say anything, we need to properly investigate this. Now, this is a totally different build project. And so all of this money, so what's happening in this industry? We knew that things weren't going right. I've lost you, actually, Gareth. We've lost your voice. You're muted. You muted yourself. You're the technical man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just talking to Chris on the other line, and he's going to try and reconnect in, but this time voice only, and we'll see how we get on with that. So, no, it's incredible how this has gone. In the short time that I've been witnessing the efforts of Steve and others, it's amazing how much more coverage, much more pressure there, and yet still we're not at a place where I see cladding being removed, the replacement going up, and ownership being taken by the so-called big bad builders. I think we should have a big bad builders award, Hamish, whereby we nominate builders by virtue of the way they react to efforts like this.
Let me just as Gareth was speaking there, some other information which has actually just come through. It's all breaking news, of course, isn't it? It's sort of breaking out. This is a copy of another letter sent in by an inspector And this particular inspector, I'm trying to figure out. I won't mention any names again. But what was he? We'll probably figure out from the email. I'm writing this open letter to all stakeholders to inform you of a serious issue regarding the fraudulent use of my credentials in the issuance of EWS forms by an aforementioned company. Funny enough, they were mentioned in the last year. It has come to my attention that the letters forms bearing my name and initials have been issued without my knowledge or authorization. So somebody's fraudulently using this particular inspector's credentials and all the rest of it to actually suggest that a particular build remediation has been carried out and inspected to a particular standard. To protect all parties involved and maintain the integrity of the EWS1 process, I request that you refrain from accepting any documents under my name unless directly verified by me. Now, we know things have been, that cladding has covered up so much, and there's so much beneath cladding which we don't know about. And when we were speaking last week, I think we speak about a certain percentage of the funds being used up to remediate. This was stuff that was already known about. So when we actually look at issues of this particular nature, that somebody is fraudulently using somebody's name to suggest how many, now this is one person mentioning it now, how many other issues are there where this hasn't happened? How many other situations are there? Like we've heard from Chris, we'll get Chris back on. I think we'll definitely be able to get him back on next week without the storm, because we can pick up a different signal then. But how many people in the position that Chris is in, that this particular sort of person here is in, sort of saying, denying all responsibility for letters being passed in his name? How many of these issues have not been revealed? How much money has been spent by people? And that particular last letter was absolutely appalling. There was one inspection carried out. It's been pushed up, ludicrous sums of money, £6,000 for a day's work.
Wow.
And it's increased right the way across the board. Now, people like Chris and this particular person, although it's in public domain because it was an open letter, because he needs to do it to actually sort of clear his name, how many instances do we not know about yet? And this is taking the issue away. It's not just Royal Artillery Quays, where we know that what Barrett want to do is to, they call it remediate. They just want to find an excuse for doing as little as possible, just so they can sort of just hide everything still. So the thing, I think it's getting more worrying the deeper we get into this. And this is where it'll be particularly useful, I think, when we can have the likes of Zara to give her feeling about it. Maybe Wendy too, because Wendy, if you remember Wendy Gibson, a first-time buyers club, she's trying to help people get into their first home.
Let me stop you there. We've got Chris, and while I've got him, I want to bring him on board. Chris, thank you so much for today. I so much appreciate it. Oh, you're on mute, sir. You're on mute. You're muted. Mute. Oh. He's muted and has turned the video off, but hopefully I can get back. Oh my giddy aunt. Unmute, please. Let's see if that helps. But you know, it's absolutely essential work that these people are doing. I'm so pleased that our little show has at least shown more people what must be done, frankly. Oh dear, I had him for a second, but he hasn't unmuted. He hasn't unmuted himself. That's such a shame. All right. Well, look, I'll tell you what, maybe we should belay this till till next Friday, Hamish, and perhaps in between time, once the storm was blown down. But those stories, those letters that you are reading, are frankly unbelievable. A crazy situation.
Well, we have, in fact, that's two that have come out this week. This is without all of the other stories, and was going to continue. People like Wendy with the First Time Buyers Club, she's trying to help people through that first experience of getting them into the property ladder, if you like.
Right.
And the easiest route in used to be buy a flat. That's it. But the problem is people who are buying flats are finding themselves now financially trapped. Like Steve is. Steve's become a prisoner now in terms of where he is. He's lost goodness knows how many tens of thousands, over 100,000, I think it is, when we last sort of heard the value of the place. They can't insure it effectively, so they've got to pay ludicrous sums of money. They can't sell it. They can't remortgage it. There's none of these things can happen. They're stuck there. And there's people like Chris, they're losing their positions if they actually come up and actually say something that their boss doesn't like, or the company doesn't like, that they were reporting the issues about. So we've heard it, which is not just the one builder. It's not just Barrett Builders. There's the P Homes. There's all sorts of other different people in exactly the same sort of situation. So these builders that are recognized or have previously been recognized as being responsible builders, they aren't. They're irresponsible, inconsiderate. And the last thing they ever consider about is the mindful health of those residents that they've actually imprisoned in somewhere which is both fire risk and is a financial burden.
All right. Well, now, look, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to draw this to a close today. And I want to thank Chris for trying to come in, weather notwithstanding, Hamish for his impassioned plea. But we're going to continue with this next week. And hopefully we will have Steve. And if we can make this work, it would be great if we can get Ms. Ollie Bokus on as well. And we can do further discussions. And Chris has got a great tale to tell that I think will really help people understand. So what we'll do is we'll say thank you very much for watching. As you can see, we've carried on pushing forward, even though the weather is against us. And I ask all of you, try and keep the faith. Keep bringing this to public attention. Please keep banging that drum and keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars and look after that mental health. Until next week, goodbye. Bye-bye.